Chapter 27. The Head Office. In the bustling metropolis of Magic City, the capital of the Federation, a middle-aged man in a well-tailored suit stood atop a 38-story luxury office building. His face bore the marks of time and authority, his broad, powerful hands and piercing eyes exuding strength despite his age. Beneath his suit, his body still held explosive power. At this moment, he faced an elderly man, speaking in a deep voice. "Boss, there's been an incident in South City. Jack is dead. While there's no clear suspect, it's undoubtedly a homicide." The elderly man's slightly cloudy eyes flickered with a hint of surprise, which quickly vanished. Jack was always overly ambitious and ruthless. He made too many enemies. I've always said he was bound to get into trouble eventually. The middle-aged man remained silent. He was a good earner, a bit of a pity, but for us, losing a branch manager isn't a major loss. His death is no big deal. The old man waved dismissively. "By the way, who's his deputy in the South City branch?" "It's Sally," the middle-aged man replied. "Oh, Sally. She's capable enough, and her background is—" The old man's voice trailed off, his tone becoming vague. He didn't elaborate. "Let her take over Jack's position. I'll issue the notice immediately." The middle-aged man nodded. "Tell Sally her first task as the new manager is to find and eliminate whoever killed Jack." The elder's eyes remained calm, but his words were chilling. "If she fails, I'll remove her from the position." "Understood." The old man stood up, looking out at the transformed world beyond the window, speaking solemnly. "I've been in business for 50 years, never breaking into the highest echelons, not for lack of ability, but because the opportunity never arose. Now, with the world changed, we have the best chance. We must seize it and rise to the top." To this elder, the death of someone like Jack was insignificant. But as Jack bore his label, his death could not be ignored. Ignoring it would undermine his authority and make him unworthy of leadership. An hour later, a document was delivered to the general manager's office at Stardust Company in South City. With this document, a new era began for Stardust Company. As chaos spread through Stardust Company in South City, Hiroshi had finished his business and was driving back to his farm. After killing Jack, Hiroshi had found a personal phone on him and used its information to locate where Uncle Nan was being held. Jack, being a true scoundrel, hadn't fully trusted even his partners. On the same day Angus tried to sell out Hiroshi, Jack had secretly sent people to capture Uncle Nan and held him in an abandoned house in the suburbs. When Hiroshi arrived at the location, he found the guards had already fled. From the time of Jack's death, nearly 2 hours had passed. Hearing about their boss's sudden death, the henchmen, unsure if it was an accident or a company power struggle, panicked. Fearing for their own lives, they abandoned their post and the hostage, fleeing the scene. Hiroshi rescued an unconscious Uncle Nan from the abandoned house. Uncle Nan had been drugged and hadn't woken up yet. Parking the car at the farm gate, Hiroshi glanced at the still unconscious Uncle Nan in the back seat and sighed softly. Although the whole ordeal was resolved without major incident for him, it still felt heavy. Angus was undeniably guilty and paid for it, but Hiroshi couldn't shake the weight in his heart. It wasn't sympathy for Uncle Nan and his son, but a realization that from now on, he would only trust Kiko and no one else. The apocalypse hadn't changed his life drastically, but it had transformed him from a young man who believed in true feelings to a cold, decisive, mature man. "Pain." Uncle Nan groaned softly. Hiroshi looked over, gently shaking Uncle Nan's shoulder. "Uncle Nan, wake up." Soon, Uncle Nan opened his eyes groggily. Seeing Hiroshi, he rubbed his eyes hard to confirm he wasn't dreaming, stuttering. "Hiroshi, is it really you?" "It's me," Hiroshi nodded. "What happened?" "I remember being kidnapped and locked in a dark room." Uncle Nan held his head, trying to recall. Finally, he remembered everything, including Angus's plan to betray Hiroshi. Uncle Nan's body stiffened as if doused in cold water. "Hiroshi, where is Angus?" Uncle Nan's eyes were red as he asked. He had a premonition. Since Angus had acted against Hiroshi and Hiroshi was here safe and sound, Angus's fate was clear. He couldn't continue the thought and had to ask Hiroshi. "Angus, he..." Hiroshi hesitated, but decided to tell Uncle Nan everything. 5 minutes later, as Hiroshi finished, Uncle Nan was in tears. He made a mistake, but he did his best to make up for it, Hiroshi said, looking at Uncle Nan. I forgave him. Uncle Nan sobbed, but I can't forgive myself. I had the chance to stop all this before it happened, but out of greed and selfishness, I did nothing. This is my punishment. Hiroshi took a deep breath and said, what's done is done. It can't be changed. Yes, there's no medicine for regret. Uncle Nan looked at Hiroshi, his voice desolate. Hiroshi, what do you plan to do with me? Hiroshi was silent for a moment before speaking. I did think about killing you to end it all when I was at that house, but now I've changed my mind. A middle-aged man in the apocalypse, whose only motivation to live was his son, now had nothing. Wealth and power meant nothing to him anymore. His heart was dead, and a man with a dead heart wouldn't betray others. Hiroshi, I know you're kind-hearted. Uncle Nan's eyes were red as he smiled sadly. Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for you. At that moment, Kiko stood on the second-floor balcony, watching the farm gate, coloring on a white paper with her watercolor pens. As she colored, she said, the big brother is still the cleanest blue, and Uncle Nan has turned dead gray, just like his son was on the bed.